So let's take a closer look at the user interface. We're going to go ahead and open one of our specs from File, Open Spec, Desktop, Exercise Files, and we're going to go to our spec sheets and we'll take a look at the CS150. So we'll take a look at more of the general headings, tabs, and areas that we have in this interface. And in the shaded area, we can see items like the description, we have the file location, and with specs, it's always important to know the last time this file was saved because revision control is critical when you're working with specs. You always want to make sure everybody's working with the same spec and the same revision so that all the information is up to date. So we have our spec browser window here that contains all our different components. While this just gives us a rolled up view, for example, let's take a look at one of our valves here. So we can see, for example, this offset butterfly valve. The overall heading's telling us that it contains components 3 inches to 24 inches. If we want to actually take a look at the individual components, we can either double click or come down to edit parts. So let's grab that and edit part, and you'll see what opens up is every single component that we have available, each size, and each one is detailed out individually, where you can go through and see individually the weight by size and all the component information. We have the face-to-face dimension length for each different size. So this just gives us a height on the individual components rather than the group. And we do have the ability to add some properties in here too. So this is just our add and remove from spec. This is how we bring components from the catalog into the spec. And if we want to remove an item, we would just highlight it and remove from spec. If we want to take a look at an item in a catalog, we can just highlight, for example, this ball valve and say find it in the catalog. And notice this is showing the whole catalog down here. And if I say find in catalog, it's going to take me to that exact component. So if we have a look at the catalog window here, so just like the spec, we have the location here of where this catalog is being pulled from. This is our default location that we looked at earlier. So this is our CPAC ASME location and the ASME valves catalog. So I'm just going to click the filters off. So what we have here is we have different categories. In this case, we have actuators and valves. So we'd start to filter for valves. And you'll see that's just what it returns. And then we can start to look, we can plug in our different size ranges here. If it's reducing components, end connections, we can start to filter. So this is our common filters location. We also have a property overrides location, which allows us to take additional material information that doesn't exist in the catalog and apply it as we add the components to the spec. If we want to change catalog, this is where we would do that right here. You could come up and you could either pick the last one that was listed, or you can just browse, open catalog. And I'm just going to look for the one here. So our desktop, exercise files, catalog. And I'm going to open the ASME pipes and fittings from this location. And you'll see it's no longer valves. We have all the other piping components. So up here, we also have our branch table editor. This allows us to limit the types of connections that are used during the piping design. So for example, if we're using a 6-inch by 18-inch connection, we're only permitted to use a stubbin. Whereas if we go with an 8-inch connection by 8 by 18, we are permitted to use a reducing T or a stubbin. So this is just a control just to make sure that design standards are adhered to. And the third tab we have is our catalog editor. And this allows us to take dimensional information. For example, I'm going to just look for flanges. I'm going to filter for flange. And in this particular flange here, you see we have some information regarding the end type, the connection, the facing, pressure class. And this is more of our descriptive information. And if we click the sizes, we can see all the dimensional information. So if we want to look at a 2-inch flange, you can see here the pipe diameter, all the information's here, and all the dimensions are here. So you can see there's a lot of information contained in both the catalog and the spec. The information, right down to the tiniest dimensions, critical to the project. If a size is incorrect, it can cause a ripple effect through the entire plant, affecting both the budget and the schedule while the corrections are being made. And for this reason, it is very, very important that the specs and catalogs are managed correctly.